I'm Charlotte McLeod with the Investing News Network, and here today with me is Doug Casey, founder of Casey Research. Thanks so much for joining me.
Pleasure. Thank you, Charlotte.
Okay, we're here right now at the New Orleans Investment Conference, and I think the last time we talked was at the beginning of the year. One topic you were telling me about was the stock market bubble. Where have we gone with stocks since then? I know it's a really broad question.
The bubble has gotten bigger in some ways, but I'm of the opinion that interest rates bottomed and bonds peaked about 2 years ago, certainly now. And I think the stock market is rolling over as we speak, so that we're entering a bear market. It's been a very long and very steep bull market. These things are cyclical. The next step is down. And I think it's going to be a very serious step down.
It's interesting. I've heard a lot of opinions on this here, and some people say, I feel like a lot of people are saying, oh, no, it might not be that bad, but you're thinking it will be.
Well, it's a problem when the markets collapse. Stocks, bonds, real estate, they're all in trouble. But we can survive that. We've had lots of bear markets in the past. I mean, you've got to remember in the 1930s, the Dow Jones went down 93%, and life went on. I'm not concerned about that so much. I'm actually concerned about the collapse of civilization itself, because political correctness has become a movement, a gigantic nest of termites that's eating away at the foundations of Western civilization itself. And Western civilization is responsible for all the good things that we have around us. And it's not only falling apart, but it's actively hated today. And I don't see how things can get better. Things like free markets and the stock market and so forth, these are fruits of Western civilization, and if you destroy that, you've wrecked the foundation for progress itself. So, yeah, it's more serious than just a bear market at this point.
And you did have that sounds a little bit dire, you did have some practical advice in the talk you just gave for people to use. Do you want to just briefly go over that?
Well, my financial advice, in light of the fact that stocks are very expensive and floating on air like Wile E. Coyote after he walks off a cliff, and the bond market is already in a bear market, and real estate floats on a sea of debt and basically moves inversely to the bond market. So get out of these conventional things. That's simple financial advice. The only thing cheap in the financial world today is commodities. So I am a bull on commodities, and gold in particular. I think eventually, soon, there's going to be a panic into gold because it's the only financial asset that's not simultaneously somebody else's liability. Other than that, practical advice that I told people in my speech is don't give money to charities, because the kind of people that run charities are exactly the kind of people that are acting as termites against all the values that you should hold dear as Western civilization. Not only that, but you should help people that deserve it, not necessarily people that need it. Two different things. And generally, charities cement people to the bottom of society by giving them unearned money. So all kinds of problems with charities. And the only good thing about charities in general is that it keeps money out of the hands of the government. Good news. Bad news, it gives money to the kind of people that run NGOs who generally do very destructive things. So if you really are a philanthropist, what you should be doing is creating more wealth to make the world at large wealthier, not giving it away where it's dissipated down a rat hole to make you feel good temporarily. So that's number one. More important is don't give money to colleges or universities, because these things are an epicenter of politically correct people, horrible people, hardcore intellectual leftists that are inculcating 18-year-olds with all kinds of absolutely perverse and destructive ideas. Worse than that, they're being turned into indentured servants, paying $100,000, $200,000, and misallocating 4 years of time to have their heads filled with things that, unless we're talking science or engineering or medicine, things of that nature, okay, different story. But very few people take those things today. So they're paying a lot of money and enslaving themselves financially for years in order to have their heads filled up with goofy ideas. And worse than that, after kids get out of it, all their friends believe the same thing. Everything they hear in movies and television and from government officials and, well, from their friends, it's the same poisonous anti-Western stuff. So at this point, resistance is almost futile. But that's my advice. And when confronted with a social justice warrior or a hardcore leftist, a socialist, don't apologize, don't compromise. The one thing that you can maintain is your self-respect. So don't roll over like a whipped dog and wet yourself. At least you can maintain some self-respect as Western civilization collapses. So that's the good news. You can do that.
Okay, so you mentioned commodities would be a good place to be, and gold specifically. That's still pretty broad. Do you have any more specific advice? Should investors look at stocks? Should they look at anything other than gold?
Well, for years, many years, I've been involved in the mining exploration business. First of all, the mining business in general and the mining exploration business, worst business in the world. Terrible business, horrible business, a black hole for money. So that's the bad news. The good news is that cyclically, occasionally, these stocks just explode. And commodities in general, and gold in particular, have been going down since about 2011. That's a long time. They're very, very cheap. They're close to the cheapest level in relative terms that they've ever been in history. And with the world financial situation as shaky as it is, there's an excellent chance there's going to be a panic into gold, and these stocks could explode upwards in value. So I like them. They're as a speculation. They have 1,000% potential as a group. They're not investments, though. They're speculations.
Maybe just quickly run over the difference for people who might not understand that.
Well, an investment is something where it's like planting a grain of corn, that you plant the corn and an ear of corn comes up and you're creating real wealth, allocating money to create real wealth. A speculation is something different. You're taking advantage of politically caused distortions in the market, or you're taking advantage of a psychological aberration in the market. So I think it's important to make this distinction between an investment and a speculation. And the mining industry is something that it's very hard to invest in because it's such a terrible business. Better to put on your speculator's hat, not your investor's hat, when you're playing with mines. But now's an excellent time to do it.
So if you're an investor coming home from this conference, you want to start building your portfolio or fixing it up, what should the balance be between, I guess, investments and speculations, and how should it all be allocated?
Well, if I don't like the stock market in general, and bonds are absolutely poison at this point, and real estate is very risky because it floats on a sea of debt and interest rates are going up and real estate taxes are going up because all the local governments are bankrupt, it kind of limits your alternatives, doesn't it? And at the same time, well, you can say, well, okay, I can keep dollars, but dollars are a fiat currency. They're a floating abstraction. They're going to reach their intrinsic value as the government is forced to create trillions more of them out of thin air. So your alternatives are actually quite limited today. I'm of the opinion we're going into something I call the Greater Depression. And the most important thing in a depression is just to keep what you have. Everybody loses wealth and a standard of living. The winner is the person that loses the least. So what should you do practically? I would buy gold coins, bullion-type gold coins. I would hold short-term T-bills so you have liquidity. So if you do see a value, you have the liquidity to jump on it. Your biggest risk, however, is not financial. As big as the financial risks are, your biggest risk is political. In other words, it's what your government will do to you. Therefore, you have to diversify politically. So the most important thing you can do is make sure that you don't have all of your assets under the control of one government. You've got to get some money in some form out of your country into another place. That's actually number one. Nobody thinks about that. That's number one. And then think about what you should do with that money once you get it to a safer place. Maybe the U.S. will turn out to be the safest place, but it doesn't matter. You want to diversify because politics is your biggest risk.
And just finishing up, what's been your best investment so far this year?
Well, two things have been very, very good to me. Cryptocurrencies, I got involved in them late in 2017. I finally figured out what the use value of them was, and I see them as a transfer mechanism to avoid the SWIFT system, to avoid banks, to transfer money privately. Now, there are many other uses for new ones. I think there's going to be a second kick at the cat with them. So I'm interested in 95% of them are junk, just like 95% of mining exploration stocks are junk. But I think there's a really good case to be made for some of these cryptos. So I'm very interested in them, but they've been very good to me, 2017. In 2018, pot stocks, I got involved in them. You usually can't go wrong betting on other people's proclivity to vices. But unfortunately, the pot stocks now are a bubble. So I'm hitting the bid with everything. Okay, so those were two things that were good to me. What's next? I think we're looking, well, the only thing I can think of is mining stocks, but it's going to be an ugly time in the years to come. So think more in terms of preserving what you have as opposed to making more.
As we finish up, is there anything else you want to mention, any news that you have?
Well, I have two websites. One is kcresearch.com, and the other one is internationalman.com. So go to both of them. They're both free. Lots of interesting stuff on both of them. And I can't fail to promote my two novels, part of a series of 7. First two, Speculator, and the second, Drug Lord, following our hero, Charles Knight, as he reforms the unjustly besmirched reputation of highly politically correct occupations. The next one coming out is Assassin, where he moves from being a drug lord, good guy, to being an assassin. Still a good guy. So read those on Amazon.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Once again, I'm Charlotte McLeod with the Investing News Network, and this is Doug Casey.